Welcome to EdLeader with your host, Dr. Rob Jackson. Join Dr. Jackson for conversations and reflections on improving educational leadership from the classroom to the boardroom and beyond. Educational leadership is an ever-evolving opportunity to make a real and lasting difference in the lives of students, parents, and the community. And now, here's your host, Dr. Rob Jackson.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the latest edition of the EdLeader podcast. I'm your host, Rob Jackson, and I want to thank you for spending time with me today. As we kick off this episode, I want to thank our listeners for the feedback about the podcast across social media platforms. I also want to thank each of you for sharing this podcast with your colleagues. I'd like to give a special shout out to NCASA, the North Carolina Association of School Administrators, who recently shared the podcast in their weekly newsletter, The Leadership Link. I'm excited about this episode as I have the opportunity to sit down with a teacher on the front lines teaching during a pandemic. Let's get to it. Today's guest epitomizes the term Renaissance man. In his 26th year of teaching, this art educator is a current defensive line coach. He's also a former basketball, track, and baseball coach. In addition to coaching, though, he is passionate about being an arts educator. Recently, he was named by his colleagues as the Croatan High School Teacher of the Year, and most recently was named as the Carteret County Schools District Teacher of the Year. This is actually the second time that he's been selected by a school district as their Teacher of the Year, as back in 2013 he was selected as the Lee County Schools District Teacher of the Year. During the last school year, the North Carolina Art Education Association named him their National Art Honor Society Advisor of the Year, having previously named him as their Secondary Art Educator of the Year. He's a summa cum laude graduate of the Masters of Education program in Art Education at East Carolina University, having previously received his Bachelor of Science degree in Art Education from Kutztown University in Pennsylvania. Please allow me to introduce to you a true Renaissance man in every sense of the word. Carteret County Public Schools Teacher of the Year, Jody Stouffer. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you. It's a real privilege to be here and just such an honor. I appreciate you inviting me, Dr. Jackson, to the podcast.
Absolutely. I am absolutely delighted, Coach, to have you here on the podcast, to have the opportunity to share you quite literally with the world. We're so very proud of you and the work that you do at Croatan High School, the difference that you're making in lives. Thank you for what you do every single day, Coach.
Well, it's just such a privilege, and it's one of the things I look at that I just feel very lucky to be able to have an occupation that I'm passionate about, look forward to going to work every day, and just absolutely enjoy the students as well as the faculty that I work with at Croatan.
And it shows, and as we were preparing to make the announcement here in our school system for the Carteret County Public Schools Teacher of the Year, and your name was shared prior to the announcement. For our listeners, we actually were on a prize patrol. This is a different world this year with the coronavirus, and so our prize patrol was a school bus, and we were pulling up in the school bus, and socially distant, of course, and we had some school board members and members of our cabinet staff. And what I heard in terms of feedback about you was just that you're an incredible colleague, that you're very encouraging and uplifting. And the excitement and happiness and joy I saw from your colleagues as your name was announced, I could tell it was authentic, but that had to mean a lot to you in that moment that your colleagues were so excited for you.
Oh, most definitely. And, one of the most exciting things for me is being at Croatan. It's already a school where academics is held very highly, and I almost feel like I'm working with an all-star cast of faculty because literally all of the educators there come across as specialists in their area, if you will. So to be honored as Teacher of the Year is just such an esteemed honor because of just the folks that I feel I'm surrounded with that are just top-notch educators in the tops of their fields.
Absolutely. And, and we very much appreciate every single teacher throughout the school system at Croatan High School, and we appreciate you and appreciate your voice. One of the things that's important to me as an educator, as someone who still calls myself a teacher regardless of what my title is recognition of teachers as educational leaders, as ed leaders. And so having the opportunity on the EdLeader podcast to talk to teachers is really exciting to me and very important to me. As you think about yourself as an educational leader, what does it mean to you as a teacher to be an educational leader, to be a leader in the building? What does that mean to you when I share that with you and ask you about it?
There's a couple different things that come to mind. One, I enjoy working with and sharing projects and collaborating with my fellow faculty as well as members of my PLC in the county and even across the state. I've been very privileged to work with the National Art Education Association here in North Carolina for a good many years and have done conferences and workshops. And, it's just something I really enjoy. I get enjoyment out of teaching kids. I get enjoyment out of teaching adults. And I really get enjoyment out of teaching our kids, and then they go and teach adults. Because it's just something just magical when you see a student. We actually have a workshop that one of my Art 4 students is getting ready to hold on our Wellness Wednesdays when we were at faculty where they're getting together for about 30 minutes, and he's going to be doing a dirty cup painting workshop. So here you have a high school student who's going to be teaching a group of about 20-some faculty members how to do these paintings, which I think is just fantastic that you have kids then that are coming back and serving as educators themselves and teaching adults.
Absolutely. And as you think about that, as I think about that, having a student who has the opportunity to then teach the adults, they've got to feel great about the skill that they've just learned. Let me unpack that a little bit. So you mentioned Art 4. So Art 4 students tend to be seniors. I guess they could be juniors as well. So a student in our country in their senior year would be preparing to graduate from high school in the spring. And so you have a 17, 18-year-old who has the opportunity to teach teachers on Wellness Wednesdays. You use this term Wellness Wednesday. Talk to me about what is Wellness Wednesday?
So this is something that the administration at Croatan has decided to start up, and they have done everything from encouraging folks to just get out and walk for half an hour at the beginning of the day. Most recently, they did some ultimate frisbee. They've played some tennis. They've done some different types of things with yoga. And as I said, we're offering some stuff through the visual arts. So it's just a way for us to kind of start our day. Wednesdays has now become the day we're mainly focused with working with our virtual students. So this is something that's lasts maybe 30 minutes at the very beginning of the day, but just a way for us to all kind of get together and do an exercise or do something together. And, it's actually become organized enough. They're keeping track as to how many members of the different departments are participating. So you get a little competition going there. And I just think it's a great way to kind of, bring everybody together and just have a little bit of time where you're sharing with your colleagues before you're starting off your school day.
I absolutely love that. Several of our schools have been sharing on Twitter through their Twitter accounts what they're doing in terms of opportunities for staff members to exercise together or to do artwork, which, by the way, I think is absolutely incredible for our staff. A recent guest on the podcast, Dr. Carrie Robinson, she's a professor at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. She used this phrase that has just absolutely stuck with me. She said on the podcast, "You can't serve others if your own bowl is empty." And, in this moment, with all we're going through with the pandemic and the work that we're doing, you mentioned teaching students virtually and face-to-face, that self-care piece is just so important, isn't it, Coach?
Most definitely. I think it's so easy to, especially as you said, when you're trying to serve both your students face-to-face as well as your virtual students, it's easy to lose track of the hours of the day. And next thing you know, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, you're still answering emails. So I think it is important that you do have to care for your health and keep that in mind. And, exactly as you had mentioned before with your bowl, you got to do things that's going to keep you fresh for your students. I think that's very important that, you come in each day and you're kind of that breath of fresh air because as trying as it is for us as educators, I can only imagine what it's like as a student who's trying to learn at home virtually with all the challenges that may bring. So I think it's always important to try and be that positive sunlight, each day for your students.
Absolutely. Shining that light and shining the sunlight you mentioned, I think, is incredibly important. It's our opportunity to really, into the lives of children, into the lives of families, say, here's a place of care, of strength, of hope, of safety. And to do that, we have to take care of ourselves. I think you're exactly right, and I very much appreciate that. Well, talking about students, and you work with high school students, so grades 9 through 12, 14 years old to about 18 years old, a typical age range. What has that been like for students as you've been able to work with the students this year who are in your classes? What is kind of the feedback you're getting about their experience in school? What are they sharing with you?
A lot of the students that are back to face-to-face, I think they're really are enjoying that, and we're looking forward to it. We still have some students that are doing the virtual, and I'm sure out of safety, but I feel like they're struggling a little bit just because it's something so new. But on the swing side of that, to be honest with you, this could possibly be the way that education is turning a little bit. If you look at your higher level degrees at university level, it's not uncommon to pretty much complete your entire degree and maybe go on campus once or twice. Everything is online. So I think if you look at the big picture, we're really laying down some solid groundwork that I think is going to come back and help our students when they hit the university level, if they choose to pursue their master's degrees and such, with them having such a vast experience already with working online and learning virtually.
I think you're exactly right. I certainly remember in my career, and I'm older than you are, Coach, but when the concept of online classes or online degrees first came out, we tended to be a little bit elitist in looking down on an online degree, perhaps, and now it's standard fare. Online degrees in most universities have online programs, and like you said, many of them are exclusively online, and we don't look down on them at all. And so helping prepare our students for that potential, I think, is important. Thinking about this moment and the changes we've made, what else do you think might be something that we take with us once this pandemic has run its course? Is there anything that you've done differently this year or even since March that may be something that you take with you into your teaching practice?
It's funny that you asked that. I actually sit on our school improvement team, and we had a meeting this week, and one of the definite positives that has come out of this is just teachers almost, I don't want to use the word forced, but teachers the necessity to incorporate more technology in their classrooms. Someone like me who's 27 years in now, it's been such an evolution of technology from what it was when I first started in 1994 to what it is now. And, sometimes you kind of fall into that comfort zone where, you have your curriculum set and you just the way things are going on. And because of what has happened now, I have introduced more new technology in my art classroom this semester than what I have in probably the last 10 years with Screencastify, and I'm now making demonstration videos, which we're then able to put online to assist our virtual students. We're having Google Meets with our extracurricular groups and organizations. So I think because of what's happening around us, it's requiring teachers to broaden themselves and become more active in technology, which again I think is going to help it because our students certainly are very well versed in technology. So I think on the overall it's going to turn out to be a very positive thing.
I do too. I agree with you. I think we're all adding to our toolkit and adding to what we're able to do, and in the future we'll be able to select from those tools and bring forward what makes sense and what works for us. Even things like online meetings, you mentioned Google Meet or the Zoom online meetings. As I've noticed with some of the meetings I have, I don't have to drive to as many meetings, and so it's saving us time, and we may decide that's the way we need to go with more of our meetings, and certainly potentially that could be a value add. Well, you mentioned, and as I shared in the introduction, you are an amazing art teacher. I love that the arts is prioritized in our school system, prioritized in our state. It's an important part of our curriculum. Coach, what led you to choose life as an art educator? What sent you down that pathway?
It's a really interesting question. I have found that, in growing up, the visual arts was just something that I had a natural God-given talent for. Which was interesting because we were talking off air before we started that I'm also very active in athletics. So I also grew up playing soccer and baseball and basketball, and eventually became a pretty good football player. So when I hit the end of my senior year in high school, I was actually searching for a school on the East Coast that had a prominent art education program that also still offered football. So as you can imagine, that's a pretty short list, and I actually ended up at Kutztown University of Pennsylvania, which had a very strong art education program and also had a Division II football team. So I was able to be able to pursue both loves of playing football as well as being an art educator and learning about that. And it's just something that I have thoroughly enjoyed, sharing with students as everything has evolved. I've led more now into North Carolina, becoming very active with ceramics and pottery, which is what our state is really known for in the art world. And just the people I have gotten the opportunity to meet and work with, and then to be able to share those experiences with our students has just been an absolute blessing to do everything that we've been able to do. So, like I said, I just feel very fortunate that two of the things that I'm very passionate about in my life, I'm able to do as an occupation. And because of that, I don't feel like I work a day in my life.
There you go. And what a blessing that is to really be in a place where you're doing what you love. And, of course, I'm sure you do the same thing. As we talk to our teenagers, that's what we encourage them to do, to follow their passion, to find that place where they're really just enjoying themselves. And then it's not work. It is a calling in some ways, and I can certainly see art as a calling in terms of those who are able to share their incredible talent with the rest of the world. And so as you think about art, and I want to kind of dive into this for just a moment, others maybe in states or other countries where art isn't as prioritized. Why is art, particularly visual arts, why is that so important for students in terms of helping to have a well-rounded individual after they finish their career in academics?
There's a couple different reasons I can think why the arts plays into just an important part of a young person's education. One of the first most things is I believe different aspects of art helps us learn and to explore outside the box ideas. Oftentimes, students are presented with a prompt in my classroom, and then I let them kind of explore different ways that they're going to solve the problem at hand. And I think that that's just so important now in corporate world and outside of education is, being able to think about multiple solutions to problems and not just get stuck on one specific thing. So I think that's one of the great things that arts brings to the table is just that ability to work on something and know that there's multiple correct solutions to it, and just to explore what's the best way to go about solving this problem. And then the other thing that I have found, and I've talked with other educators numerous times on this, is so many times I have a student that lands in the classroom that might be labeled as a problem student in some of the other curriculum areas, and they just come in and it's just a different world for them, whether it be, so much of what we do is project-based learning. And for so many students, they just relate to that and they understand that. And you have students that like working with their hands. They're just more comfortable with that. So if you're throwing on a potter's wheel or you're working on a weaving project, they just feel more at home and relaxed. I have an interesting story I like to share. A couple years ago, I actually had a student who ended up taking Pottery 4 for me and was also our valedictorian. And I would come back to him and I'd say, Stephen, of all the classes, all the AP classes and honors classes and all the classes that you could be taking, why are you still making sure to fit art in your schedule? And he said, well, Coach, this is the class that I can come in and just let my brain relax. And just come in and sit down and make things. And it's just a time that he didn't feel so much under pressure, because there's just so much pressure now a lot of times for some of our higher level students with test scores and, getting into universities and, just a tremendous amount of pressure. So I appreciated him saying that, and was glad. He did a phenomenal job. He actually wanted to learn how to make bowls because he wanted to do some missionary work where he could then go into these third world countries and share with them on how to make bowls, which I thought was just phenomenal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a great story. Thank you for sharing that with me. I very much appreciate it. Coach, as you were talking, I was thinking about when we began to talk about in our country how to continue to be one of the leaders in the world, how to continue to compete economically where other countries might be able to produce things at a cheaper rate because of paying workers less, that sort of thing, one of the things we really banked on and do bank on as Americans is our creativity. Being able to be creative, being able to be problem solvers, being able to solve problems and be the first to put a man on the moon and all those sorts of things, and to continue to encourage that in the American character, I think, is to encourage creativity, and certainly visual arts does that. And the second piece is what we've called 21st century skills. And one of the biggest of that is communication. And communication isn't just talking, but it's being able to communicate. And certainly whether it's the pottery or the weaving or the painting or drawing, you're giving students an opportunity to communicate. Do you think I'm right with that, or am I off base there? What do you think?
No, I think you're right on target. And one of my platforms as an educator is trying to take learning and education outside of the classroom. And a great example to share with you when that is, we're doing so much in teaching students, medium and art principles and elements, but we've become very active with our local arts council, and through that they have opened the door for us to participate in several local art festivals and such, which just opens up all kinds of new doors for art education that usually is not things that you would think about going over in the classroom. So as you said with communication, we're now talking about, okay, you've set up your exhibit. How do you place your items so they look aesthetically pleasing to patrons as they come by? How do you communicate back and forth with these prospective folks that might be purchasing some of your artwork? And these are all things that, one of the biggest ones is how do you go about pricing your artwork? A lot of times high school students, when you can get them to sell their artwork, a lot of times they don't want to sell it because they just don't have that very deep of a portfolio. But these are all great questions and great learning opportunities that typically are not present in your regular art classroom, that I think because of these, the communication that it opens up with them being out in the community and actually feeling like a real artist and doing things that a real artist would do, it just expands our education so much.
Absolutely. And thank you for doing that, and thank you for all that you're doing for our students. I very much appreciate that. Coach, as you're thinking about teaching, and I want to kind of switch gears a little bit, as you're thinking about teaching right now, for those who may not be in the classroom or close to a classroom, maybe administrators at the state level or others who are outside of the classroom, what's life like right now for classroom teachers? What are teachers experiencing?
I think it's various different levels. I know for me and the educators that I'm around, it was a relief to get back in the classroom. I mean, that's just our area where we feel at home. I think one of the strengths that we have as educators is we are very adaptable. One of the things I spoke about back last March when it came upon us so quickly that we were all going home and have to work virtually is I think a lot of the educators were really able to switch gears and kind of, it was like a new challenge, which they took head on and were able to transfer their curriculum more over to the virtual field, and I was just extremely impressed by it. But I just feel like as educators, that's one of the things that's just such a strength in our profession, is that we are able to very quickly adapt and change gears and find ways to make things work. So I think in coming back to the classroom at the start of the school year, a lot of teachers were relieved, but they still kind of held on to some of those things that they found that worked in the spring that maybe they wouldn't have stumbled across, with technology. So I think now it's actually made them stronger educators.
I agree. And I appreciate you saying that. In our district, we're currently on a hybrid plan. So our students have the opportunity, they can remain 100% virtual, or they can attend class 2 days a week and then 3 days a week are virtual. In our state, the governor's recently allowed our elementary schools to go back to a 5-day-a-week being present face-to-face, or the parents can still select the 100% virtual. And eventually, we're looking forward to our high school students being able to attend school 5 days a week. And I know they're looking forward to that as well. What are you seeing from students in terms of engagement, Coach? You feel like they're doing well and working hard, or not doing so well, or is it individual to the student? What's kind of your feel for that?
I think for some of our students that are still full virtual, it's still a little bit of a struggle for them, just because, there's so many other things going on at home that can serve as distractions. It's hard for us to put ourselves in our students' shoes as to, how many brothers and sisters are maybe at home. Are they having to babysit while mom and dad are working full-time jobs? So I think it's just hard for us to kind of wrap our mind around as to, the different struggles that each individual student might be facing at home. But I think it is important that we do need to keep those in mind, as we're presenting our material to them and expectations that we have. Of course, we still want to keep very high expectations, the same as we have for our face-to-face students. But it's just important to remember that there are additional struggles, I feel, that our virtual students are having to face at home while they're trying to learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a tough time. There's no question about that. And we very much appreciate all of those who are doing this amazing work to serve our students, to serve our community, who are willing to be so flexible. You talked about the flexibility of teachers and educators, and I've joked before, and it's not really a joke. If there's any problem in the world, if they just bring in a room full of teachers, they'd figure it out pretty quickly, and, we'd have snacks during the meeting, and we'd have a good time, and we'd get the problem solved, and so I certainly appreciate that. One of the roles of the Teacher of the Year, and of course you are the Croatan High School Teacher of the Year, and you're the Carteret County Public Schools Teacher of the Year, and pretty soon you'll have the opportunity to compete for Regional Teacher of the Year, and then potentially North Carolina State Teacher of the Year, maybe even the National Teacher of the Year. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but Coach, I wouldn't be surprised by any of those titles being given to you. But one of the opportunities being the Teacher of the Year is to speak on behalf of your colleagues and to speak to your colleagues. In this moment, if you had the opportunity to stand in front of our teachers across our school system and teachers throughout our state and beyond, what's your message for teachers in this moment with where we are?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and it is a struggle for me because I'm so active in our community, is just trying to, again, encourage educators to find ways to take education outside the classroom, find ways to make what your students are learning relative so they kind of understand how to apply these things. And it's, the interesting thing is that I found the more you involve students in the community, the more pride they take in their community, the more you have parent involvement. So as we were saying, we look for a lot of times our art students to get involved with the elementary schools when they have winter festivals and fall festivals, and get involved in the community when there's different art festivals. And parents then come in a company and they help their children get the artwork set up. And that's one of the things I think we're missing in today's education is just more parental involvement. And again, just have been so blessed to be at Croatan because that is definitely an area that's not lacking. We just have such great parent support. And I believe a lot of times that's an important part that's missing in a student's education is that support from home.
Absolutely, no question. And we do very much value the support of our parents and the support they give us. I very much appreciate all the community members who are also great partners with us. And we understand that not every child has that, but where it is there and where it is available, we certainly want to encourage that. Coach, I can't imagine a better representative of the teaching profession of Carteret County Public Schools, of Croatan High School. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for the Renaissance man that you are, art teacher, football coach, and all that you do for so many. Thank you, my friend, for all that you do for the students, but thank you for spending time with me today and sharing your thoughts and sharing your gifts with the rest of the world. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Jackson.
Absolutely. I hope that you enjoyed our time today with Coach Stouffer. As he shared, flexibility is absolutely key and crucial in this moment. I want to thank you for all the flexibility you're showing in your work in seeking to meet the needs of our students, staff, and colleagues. I hope that this podcast is helping you as you reflect on your daily work. I look forward to our next opportunity to sit down together. Don't forget the special series, Lessons from the Lightkeeper, that's being released each Wednesday morning. Remember, show notes are available at drrobjackson.com. My friends, thank you for spending time with me today, and thank you for all that you do for every student, every teacher, and every staff member. You are making a difference. If no one else has told you, I want you to know that I believe in you. Good day.
Thank you for listening to the EdLeader podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and consider leaving a review with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts so that we may continue to grow the EdLeader community. We hope that you have enjoyed your time with Dr. Jackson. Until next time.